buckle up because today we're diving into a side of the entertainment world you don't often see. We're talking about organized crime, but specifically how it's wormed its way into boxing and music in the UK.
Ooh, that's a recipe for trouble for sure. I'm intrigued. Where'd you find this out?
So it all started with this interview I was watching with Darren.
Okay.
Now, if you don't know, he's ex-gang, knows that world inside and out, and he did not hold back.
Yeah, that's the kind of insider perspective you can't really get from, like, news articles.
Exactly.
What kind of stuff was he saying?
Well, he was saying that organized crime has basically set up shop in boxing gyms and music studios.
Oh, wow.
They're not there for the music, though. What they're looking for is raw talent, that that hunger to make it big, and they totally use it against these young people.
It's like the worst possible mentorship you could imagine. I mean, you hear about these kind of things, but coming from someone who is actually in that world, it's pretty chilling.
Yeah, and you can tell he's seen it firsthand. It's really calculated, too. He describes this whole system. They find these athletes, promising boxers, and basically use them as recruiters.
Oh, wow. Recruiters for
To bring in even more talent, more kids who are hungry for their shot.
So they're preying on that desperation.
Absolutely. You dangle the money, the fame, maybe even slip them some cash, make them feel like they're on the up and up. And then slowly those favors, they become obligations. It's textbook grooming, but it's like on an organized level.
And I bet it's even harder to say no when you feel like you're surrounded by it.
Yeah.
Did he talk about how they actually get these kids in? Like, what does it look like in practice?
Yeah. He was saying that these boxing gyms, they basically become like social clubs for these guys.
Right.
They flash their cash around impressionable kids, make it look aspirational.
Normalizing that lifestyle.
Totally. When in reality, it's the furthest thing from it.
Yeah. It's a trap, basically. And a profitable one.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about boxing and music here.
Huge industries.
Industries where, like, a little bit of talent can mean a lot of money.
So much money.
So it makes sense why they'd be interested, but it's still awful.
Yeah.
So they get them in, they're flashing the cash. But, like, how do they keep them there? Like, how do they actually control these people once they're in?
Well, he talks about these training camps abroad.
Oh, okay.
And at first, they're pitched as this incredible opportunity, but then he really hints at the fact that it's a way to isolate them.
Ah, so you get them away from, like, their family, their support systems, their friends. Yeah.
Exactly, and embed them even deeper into this network.
It's so manipulative.
It is, and it's not just boxing either. He talks about gangsters using the same tactics in the music industry, especially in the UK drill scene.
Oh, really?
They control everything, who gets studio time, who collaborates, everything. He even compared it to some producers in America who used to, pit rival gangs against each other just to make money. Oh, wow. Using that rivalry.
It's like a twisted play, and these kids are the pawns.
Yeah, and history's repeating itself. You'd think people would learn.
You would.
So if it's this bad, why aren't people talking about it? Like, why aren't there more safeguards?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's something we are going to unpack, I promise you that. But before we do that, I do want to touch on one more thing.
Okay.
G mentions this guy, Alus, who ran a karate gym. I think it was in Toxteth.
Okay.
And he seemed to have a ton of respect for this guy.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Did you get that sense?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, good. I'm not the only one. Because it seemed like he was contrasting Alus's gym with the ones being used by these gangsters.
Right, yeah. He even called places like his, like Alus's gym, great positive hubs of energy. And he really emphasized, the importance of having good leadership in these spaces. I thought that was interesting.
It is interesting. It's like with these gyms, they can be really vulnerable spaces, especially for kids who are maybe looking for somewhere to belong,
Totally.
But if they have the right person in charge, they can be such a force for good in the community.
Mm-hmm.
It all comes down to who's running the show.
100%. It seems like more often than not, it's the people with bad intentions who have all the influence.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really struck me was how G was talking about how these kids, they're taught to fight differently on the streets than in the gym.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever heard him talk about that?
I think so, yeah.
It was like a really vivid analogy. It was like, imagine you learned about history by reading a textbook versus actually living through it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's a completely different ballgame.
Oh, absolutely. It's one thing to learn the theory, but another to be out there when it's real life. you know?
It's like they're thrown into this crazy world with no rule book, so who do they turn to? The ones who offer them some kind of plan, some structure.
Right, and that's how these groups, they hook them. They prey on that. It's that need for stability, even if it's a messed up kind of stability.
It's like they're filling a void, but with something that's ultimately going to hurt them.
Exactly.
It's pretty dark, but did G offer any solutions? Like, what can we actually do about this?
Well, he doesn't make it sound easy. He says it takes a lot to really fight organized crime. Like, it's got to be attacked from all sides.
Okay, so what are some of the things he suggests?
Well, for one, he's big on transparency, especially in the entertainment industry.
What do you mean?
Like shining a light on those backroom deals, the contracts, the money, the connections that make this all possible.
So more investigative journalism, more people speaking out.
Exactly.
And I guess more pressure on, like, the authorities to actually hold these people accountable.
Exactly. It's about making it harder for them to hide,
Yeah.
making it so the priority is protecting young talent instead of exploiting them.
Okay, that makes sense, but that's huge, right? Like, systemically huge. What about on a smaller scale? What can communities do to keep young people safe?
Honestly, I think G really hit the nail on the head when he said education is key.
Education.
Not just telling kids to avoid bad influences. It's about, like, equipping them to spot the signs,
Right.
to actually understand what they're getting into.
Yeah, it's about empowering them to make their own choices.
Yes.
Not just telling them what those choices should be.
Exactly. It's about critical thinking,
Yeah.
self-awareness. Give them the tools,
So that they can see clearly what's going on.
Exactly.
What about the ones who are already caught up in it? I mean, how easy is it to really break free from something like that?
It can't be easy, but G had something to say about that too.
Yeah.
He talked about finding that one person, that one safe space, a teacher, a mentor, even a counselor, someone they can actually talk to without being judged.
Yeah. That's so important, just knowing there's someone out there.
It is, and he really stressed that there's absolutely no shame in asking for help.
Because sometimes you need it, you know? You can't always do it all on your own.
Exactly, and G himself, he's proof that it's possible.
To get out of that world and actually build a good life,
Yeah.
he's living proof.
Exactly.
You mentioned earlier that these groups are really good at adapting to, like, whatever the situation is.
Oh, they're always one step ahead. It's true.
And she touched on this new trend, how they're using social media now, especially with the music side of things.
Oh, absolutely. Social media, it's like their new favorite playground, unfortunately.
What do you mean?
They use it for everything, scouting for new talent, promoting their artists, making that whole lifestyle seem glamorous when it's really not.
And they're reaching so many people.
So many, especially young people who are, maybe looking for their big break or just want to be seen.
It's crazy how they've managed to use these platforms, platforms that are supposed to be about creativity, connecting with people.
Right. It's like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
So what can you even do?
I think it goes back to education again.
Yeah.
This time, digital literacy.
Like how to be safe online, how to spot those red flags.
Exactly.
Because it's not enough to just tell kids to be careful anymore.
Right, because what happens online, it affects real life. There are real consequences.
So how do we make sure that what we're teaching them, like, translates to this digital world?
It's on everyone, honestly. Parents, teachers, even the platforms themselves.
It's a joint effort.
It has to be.
Now, G didn't really get into the money side of things, did he?
Not really.
But I'm curious, like, how are they actually using boxing and music to make money? Is it as simple as, like, just taking advantage of these artists and athletes, or is there, like, a bigger financial picture here?
There's always a bigger picture, isn't there?
Right.
It's organized crime, after all.
So it's more complicated than just exploitation.
I think so, yeah. Exploitation's definitely a part of it, but I think they're also using these industries for some pretty sophisticated financial stuff.
Like what?
Well, think about it. Boxing matches, concerts, merch sales.
Yeah.
That's a lot of cash flowing around. Yeah. And cash that can be used to fund other illegal stuff or launder money or just line their own pockets.
So they're in control of the talent and they're in control of where all the money goes.
Exactly. They could be using these businesses, the boxing, the music, all of it, as a front for money laundering.
Yeah.
Make it look legit when it's not.
Wow.
Or even illegal gambling, fixing matches.
Oh, wow.
It's all about the money.
That's another level.
It is.
Yeah.
And then there's the contracts.
The contracts, yeah.
Think about it. These young artists, these athletes, They sign these contracts.
Right.
A lot of them probably don't even know what they're signing, you know?
Yeah, no lawyer looking over their shoulder.
Exactly. So they could be signing away huge chunks of their earnings or agreeing to things that are totally unfair.
And they're stuck,
Yeah,
basically.
basically, yeah.
Trapped in a system that's designed to benefit someone else. It's kind of heartbreaking when you think about all that potential being wasted.
It is. It all goes back to what we were saying before. Transparency is so important.
Yeah, shedding light on these practices so we can actually start to change things.
Exactly.
Okay, so back to these training camps for a sec.
Okay.
You were saying that they aren't always what they seem.
Yeah, on the surface, they seem amazing, right? You get to train with the best, travel the world. Who wouldn't want that? Right. But Geese seem to be implying that some of them are more about control than training.
Yeah, like separating these kids from anyone who might, help them see what's really going on.
It's classic, really. Get them away from their families, their friends, anyone who might question what's happening.
So they're more easily influenced, right? More likely to just go along with it.
Exactly. Imagine it. You're young, you got all these dreams, suddenly you're flown to some other country.
Living the dream.
Yeah, but you're surrounded by people who all believe the same things, who all follow the same code.
A code that might not be so great.
Exactly.
It's like they're being brainwashed.
In a way, yeah.
So how do we protect young people from that?
Well, for one, education.
There's that word again.
It really is important. Athletes, their families, coaches, they need to know what to look for,
Like red flags.
Red flags, exactly.
What would even be like a red flag in this situation?
Well, for starters, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Right.
Like if they're pressuring you to make a decision quickly, if something feels off about them, trust your gut.
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Lots of questions.
Mm.
And it's so important to keep those lines of communication open with family, friends, a supportive coach.
Yeah, so they have someone they can talk to if something feels wrong.
Absolutely. Because the more isolated they are, the more vulnerable they become.
This is all like really heavy stuff.
It is heavy, but it's important.
It's eye-opening, that's for sure.
It is. It really makes you think about what's going on behind the scenes.
And it's easy to feel, discouraged.
Oh, yeah.
But you're right, it is important to talk about it.
It is, because ignoring it won't make it go away.
And we can't just assume it's only happening over there in the UK.
Right. This kind of stuff, it can happen anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah, and you said earlier, this isn't just an entertainment industry problem, it's a, societal one. What did you mean by that?
Well, you got to think about why these tactics even work in the first place, It's because we live in a world where success is all about money and fame.
Okay.
And young people, especially the ones who haven't had it easy, they're just bombarded with these images of make it big, get rich.
Right, but without seeing all the work that goes into it.
Exactly. And so these groups, they take advantage of that. They offer a shortcut, right? A way to skip all the hard work, all the struggle.
Yeah, but that shortcut, that's where it gets dangerous.
Exactly. Because that shortcut, it always comes with a price.
Yeah, you end up owing someone something.
And usually, it's more than you can afford to pay back.
So it's not enough to just go after these criminal groups. We have to change the way we think about success.
100%. We need a world where young people feel supported, where they can actually achieve their dreams without having to, sacrifice who they are.
Without being taken advantage of.
Exactly.
Well said. This has been a lot.
It has, yeah.
But eye-opening, for sure.
Really important stuff, though.
It is. So before we go, any last thoughts for people listening?
Don't underestimate yourself. You can make a difference, even if it's something small. Just talk to the young people in your life.
Yeah.
Educate yourself. Support the organizations that are trying to help. Every little bit counts.
That's a great place to leave it. We all have a part to play. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.